There is a problem with the Milwaukee-Eight engine that has existed since the day it was released in 2017. A problem that Harley-Davidson knows about. A problem that owners have been complaining about for 8 years. A problem that has caused engine failures, consumed oil, generated excessive heat, and cost riders thousands of dollars in repairs. And despite all of this, despite the complaints, the forum posts, the warranty claims, the failed engines, Harley has never issued a recall. They've never admitted fault. They've never offered to fix the bikes already on the road. They redesigned some components for later production years, which proves they knew there was a problem. But they abandoned hundreds of thousands of owners who bought the early bikes. Today is December 9th, 2025, and after 8 years of denial, it's clear that Harley-Davidson will never properly fix the Milwaukee-Eight problem. They're going to keep denying it, keep blaming owners, keep making excuses, and keep leaving riders stranded with defective engines. In this video, I'm going to expose exactly what the Milwaukee-Eight problem is, the technical reasons it exists, why Harley will never fix it, how much it's costing owners, and what you should do if you own one of these bikes. Stay till the end because I'm going to tell you which specific Milwaukee-Eight years and models are the worst and which ones are slightly less terrible. Smash that like button right now if you're tired of Harley's lies and corporate gaslighting. Subscribe and hit the bell because this channel holds manufacturers accountable when they screw over customers. And if you work for Harley Corporate and you're watching this getting defensive, save your breath. Everything I'm about to say is documented and provable. Let's expose the truth. The core Milwaukee-Eight problem is oil sumping caused by inadequate scavenge capacity in the oil pump. Let me explain what this means in plain English. In any 4-stroke engine, oil circulates from the oil tank through the engine to lubricate moving parts, and then it needs to be pumped back to the tank. This return process is called scavenging. The Milwaukee-Eight uses a gear rotor oil pump with separate pressure and scavenge sections. The pressure side sends oil into the engine. The scavenge side is supposed to pull oil from the crankcase back to the tank at the same rate or faster. But on Milwaukee-Eight engines, especially 2017 through 2019 models, the scavenge capacity is insufficient. Oil accumulates in the crankcase faster than the pump can remove it. This is oil sumping, and it creates a cascade of problems. When excess oil builds up in the crankcase, the spinning crankshaft and connecting rods churn through it like a blender at thousands of RPM. This whips air into the oil, creating foam and emulsion. Foamy oil cannot lubricate properly because air bubbles compress under pressure instead of maintaining a protective film between metal surfaces. Result? Accelerated wear on bearings, cylinder walls, piston rings, cam lobes, lifters, every moving part. Second problem, the excess oil in the crankcase creates pressure. That pressure forces oil past piston rings into the combustion chamber where it burns and exits through the exhaust. That's your oil consumption. The pressure also pushes oil past valve seals and gaskets, causing external leaks. Third problem, because oil is being consumed and the remaining oil is degraded by foaming, the engine is starving for proper lubrication, even if you keep adding oil to maintain the level. The damage is cumulative. The longer this goes on, the more wear occurs, until eventually something catastrophic fails. Spun bearing, scored cylinder, seized piston, hold crankcase, pick your nightmare. Harley-Davidson issued Technical Service Bulletin M1450 in 2019 acknowledging the scavenge issue on 2017 to 2019 Milwaukee-Eight engines. The TSB describes increasing the scavenge capacity of the oil pump for 2020 and later production. This is Harley admitting there was a design defect. They wouldn't change the pump design if the original was adequate. But here's the critical point. Harley did not recall the 2017, 2018, and 2019 bikes with the defective pump. They did not offer to retrofit the updated pump on existing bikes for free or even at a discount. They simply fixed it going forward and abandoned everyone who already bought a bike. And when owners of those bikes come in with oil consumption, sumping symptoms, or engine damage, dealers tell them it's normal, it's within spec, there's nothing wrong. That is gaslighting. That is denial. That is Harley-Davidson's standard operating procedure. Now let me explain why Harley will never fix this problem properly. First reason is money. There are hundreds of thousands of 2017 to 2019 Milwaukee-Eight motorcycles on the road. If Harley issued a recall and had to replace the oil pump on every single one of those bikes at their cost, we're talking about parts and labor that could easily total $300 to $500 million. Harley cannot afford that. They're bleeding cash. Sales are down. Dealers are closing. They just restructured $1 billion in debt. They don't have the financial capacity to fund a massive recall. So instead, they deny the problem, set the oil consumption spec absurdly high at 1 quart per 1,000 miles so they can claim almost anything is within normal limits, and they force individual owners to either pay for repairs themselves or just live with the defect. Second reason Harley won't fix it is legal liability. If they admit the Milwaukee-Eight has a design defect that causes engine damage, they open themselves up to class action lawsuits from every owner who's experienced the problem. Lawyers would have a field day. Harley would face billions in legal settlements and judgments, so their strategy is to never admit fault, never acknowledge it's a defect, always claim it's normal. Operation or owner error or maintenance related. By maintaining this position, they make it harder for plaintiffs to prove in court that Harley knew about a defect and failed to act. It's a legal defense strategy disguised as customer service. Third reason is pride and reputation. Harley-Davidson has spent over 100 years building a brand image around quality, heritage, American craftsmanship, the myth of the indestructible Harley engine. Admitting that their latest engine design, the Milwaukee-Eight that they hyped as the future of the company, has a fundamental flaw that causes failures, would destroy that carefully constructed image. It would be admitting that modern Harley engineering is inferior to their older designs like the Evolution and Twin Cam. It would be handing ammunition to competitors like Indian, who could say, look, even Harley admits their engines are defective, buy our bikes instead. Harley's ego and brand mythology won't allow them to make that admission, so they double down on denial. Fourth reason is that fixing it properly on existing bikes is complicated and expensive. It's not just swapping the oil pump. By the time most owners realize they have a problem, there's already internal damage from poor lubrication. You'd need to disassemble the engine, replace the pump, inspect everything for wear, replace worn bearings and cam components, reassemble, test. You're looking at 10 to 20 hours of labor at $100+ per hour plus parts. That's a $5,000 to $8,000 job per bike. Multiply that by hundreds of thousands of bikes, and it's financially impossible. Even if Harley wanted to do the right thing, the economics don't work. So they do nothing. Let me tell you about the symptoms owners experience that Harley denies are problems. First and most common is oil consumption. Owners notice their oil level dropping between changes. They're adding a quart every 1,000 to 2,000 miles. They mention it to the dealer. The dealer says, Harley's spec allows 1 quart per 1,000 miles. You're within tolerance. It's normal. That's a lie. No modern engine should consume a quart per 1,000 miles. That's a failed engine by any reasonable standard. But Harley set the spec that high specifically to avoid warranty claims. It's a cynical CYA move. Second symptom is smoke on cold start. The bike blows blue or white smoke when first started after sitting. That's oil in the combustion chamber burning off. It happens because oil sumps in the crankcase overnight. Then when you start the bike, pressure pushes that oil past rings into cylinders. Owners report this to dealers. Dealers say, some smoke on cold start is normal, no problem. Again, that's false. A healthy engine doesn't smoke. Smoke means oil is going where it shouldn't. Third symptom is excessive heat. Milwaukee-Eight engines run hot, not just warm, but uncomfortably hot for the rider. The engine heat radiates to the seat, the tank, the rider's legs. In summer, it's unbearable. Stop at a red light and your thighs are cooking. This is partly due to emissions regulations forcing Harley to run the engine lean, but it's also exacerbated by poor oil flow and lubrication from the sumping issue. Oil that's foamy and degraded doesn't carry heat away from components as effectively. Result is higher operating temperatures. Owners complain. Harley says, it's within normal operating range. Modern engines run hotter for emissions. Technically true, but that doesn't make it acceptable. Fourth symptom is oil weeping from gaskets and seals. Excess crankcase pressure from sumping pushes oil past every seal point. Owners see oil around the crankcase, primary cover, rocker boxes. Dealers clean it up and say, some seepage is normal, we'll keep an eye on it. They never actually fix the root cause because that would require acknowledging the scavenge problem. Fifth symptom is rough running when cold or hard starting. Oil in the combustion chamber disrupts air-fuel mixture and compression. The bike stumbles and runs rough until it warms up and burns off the oil. Dealers adjust the idle or blame the fuel. They don't address the real problem. Sixth symptom is valve train noise, ticking, clicking, rattling from the top end. This indicates worn cam lobes, lifters, or rockers from inadequate lubrication. By the time this noise appears, there's already significant damage. Dealers might adjust valves or replace components, but they don't address the underlying cause, which is the oil pump not scavenging properly. Now let me tell you about real owners who've been screwed by this problem and Harley's denial. A guy named Jeff bought a 2018 Street Glide new. At 35,000 miles, he noticed oil consumption, half a quart every 1,000 miles. He documented it carefully, took it to his dealer. They did a diagnostic. Everything appeared within spec according to Harley's service manual. No warranty coverage. At 45,000 miles, the consumption increased to 3/4 of a quart per 1,000. Jeff went back. Same answer. No problem, according to Harley. At 52,000 miles, Jeff heard a loud knocking from the engine. Took it straight to the dealer. They tore it down. Spun rod bearing, scored crankshaft, damaged cylinder wall. The engine was destroyed. Cost to repair, $9,000, not covered by warranty because the bike was out of powertrain coverage, and Harley claimed the failure was due to improper maintenance, not defect. Jeff had every maintenance receipt. He'd done everything by the book. Didn't matter. Harley denied the claim. Jeff was stuck with a $9,000 repair bill for an engine that failed because of a defect Harley refused to acknowledge. Another owner, Linda, bought a 2017 Road King. She's a small woman, 5'2", and the heat from the Milwaukee-Eight engine was so bad she couldn't ride the bike in summer. Her inner thighs would get burned. She tried aftermarket heat shields, different riding gear, nothing helped. She went to her dealer multiple times asking if something was wrong. They said, no, the bike is operating normally. Milwaukee-Eights run hot. There's nothing we can do. Linda finally traded the bike in at a huge loss and bought a different brand. She lost over $15,000 because Harley sold her a bike with an engine that was fundamentally flawed for her use case, and they refused to acknowledge it or help. Another guy, Tom, owned a 2019 Softail. At 28,000 miles, his bike started leaving oil spots wherever he parked, drips from the primary cover. The dealer replaced the gasket. A few months later, oil again. They replaced it again. Same thing happened. Tom did research online and learned about the crankcase pressure issue from oil sumping. He asked the dealer to check the oil pump scavenge capacity or update it to the 2020 spec. Dealer contacted Harley Technical. Answer: bike is within spec. No action warranted. Tom ended up selling the bike at a loss because he couldn't deal with the constant oil leaks and Harley's refusal to fix the root cause. These stories repeat thousands of times across the Milwaukee-Eight ownership base. People experiencing problems, dealers denying there's anything wrong, Harley corporate backing up the dealers and refusing coverage, owners either paying for repairs out of pocket, living with the problems, or selling at a loss. All because Harley won't admit the Milwaukee-Eight has a fundamental design flaw and they won't take responsibility for fixing it. Now let me compare the Milwaukee-Eight to previous Harley engines to show you how far the quality and reliability have fallen. The Evolution engine, produced from 1984 to 1999, was legendary for reliability. It was simple. Pushrod V-twin, no complex electronics, easy to work on. Sure, it had some oil leaks, but mechanically it was solid. You could run an Evo to 100,000 miles with basic maintenance and it would keep going. Many Evos are still on the road today, 30+ years later, running strong. The Evolution didn't have oil sumping issues. It didn't consume oil unless it was truly worn out. It didn't generate excessive heat. It had character and soul. Riders loved it. Mechanics loved working on it. It was a great engine. The twin cam, produced from 1999 to 2017, had some issues. Early models had cam chain tensioner problems. Some years had issues with cam bearings. The engine ran hotter than the Evo. But once Harley sorted out the major bugs by around 2007, the late twin cam engines were pretty solid. They made good power. They sounded great. They were more refined than the Evo, but still had character. Riders who have late twin cams 2007 and later generally love them and have had good experiences. The twin cam didn't have systemic oil sumping issues like the Milwaukee-Eight. It consumed minimal oil unless something was actually wrong. Then came the Milwaukee-Eight in 2017. Harley hyped it as the most powerful, smoothest, most advanced engine they'd ever made, and on paper it looked good. More displacement, 4 valves per cylinder instead of 2. Better breathing, smoother operation, but in reality they screwed up the fundamentals. The oil pump design was inadequate. The emissions tuning made it run too hot. The sound was muffled and soulless compared to earlier engines. The complexity made it harder and more expensive to work on. And the reliability has been worse than the Evo or late twin cam. 8 years into production, Milwaukee-Eight engines are failing at mileages where Evos and twin cams were just getting broken in. That's unacceptable. That's going backwards in quality and engineering. Here's what kills me about this whole situation. Harley had 2 previous engine designs that worked. The Evo and the twin cam, despite their flaws, were fundamentally sound engines that could deliver 100,000 miles or more with proper care. Harley had decades of experience designing and building air-cooled V-twin engines, and yet with the Milwaukee-Eight, they somehow managed to screw up basic oiling. How does that happen? It's either incompetence in the engineering department, or it's cost-cutting and corner-cutting to hit price targets, or it's a combination of both. Either way, it's inexcusable for a company with Harley's history and resources. Now let me tell you which Milwaukee-Eight years and models are the worst. The absolute worst are 2017, 2018, and 2019 with the original oil pump design. These are the bikes most affected by oil sumping. If you own one of these, you're on borrowed time. The pump is inadequate, the problems will emerge or get worse, and Harley won't help you. The 2020 and later bikes have the updated pump with increased scavenge capacity. They're better, but they're not perfect. Some 2020-plus owners still report oil consumption and heat issues. The redesign helped, but didn't completely solve the problem. The 107 cubic inch engines seem to have more issues than the 114 and 117 engines, possibly because the smaller displacement runs hotter and struggles more with the inadequate oiling. The touring models, Street Glide and Road Glide, seem to have more heat complaints than the Softdales, probably because of the fairing trapping heat around the engine and rider. The CVOs with the 117 and later the 121 engines are supposed to be the premium bikes, but they're not immune to problems. I've seen reports of CVO engines failing or consuming oil just like the base models. Paying $50,000 for a bike doesn't protect you from the fundamental design flaws. So what should you do if you own a Milwaukee-Eight? If you have a 2017 to 2019, seriously consider selling it before the problems emerge or get worse. Values are already dropping because the market knows these bikes are problematic. Cut your losses and get out. If you have a 2020 or later, monitor it closely. Check your oil level frequently. Watch for consumption, smoke, leaks, noises. Document everything. If problems emerge, report them to your dealer in writing and demand they fix it. If you're out of warranty, get multiple quotes for repairs and consider whether it's worth fixing or better to sell. If you're shopping for a Harley, avoid Milwaukee-Eight models entirely. Look for late twin cam bikes, 2007 to 2016. They're proven, reliable, and much cheaper than new Milwaukee-Eights. Or look at other brands. Indian makes excellent bikes. Japanese manufacturers are more reliable. Don't give your money to Harley for a defective product they refuse to stand behind. Here's the bottom line. The Milwaukee-Eight has a fundamental design flaw in the oil scavenging system that causes sumping, consumption, poor lubrication, excessive heat, and premature engine wear and failure. Harley-Davidson has known about this since 2017. They acknowledged it by redesigning the pump for 2020 production, but they have never recalled the defective bikes. They have never offered to fix existing bikes. They deny there's a problem. They gaslight owners who complain. They set specs absurdly high to avoid warranty coverage. They blame owners for failures caused by their defect. After 8 years of this behavior, it's clear Harley will never properly fix the Milwaukee-Eight problem. They will never do the right thing. They will continue to deny and abandon owners until the company collapses or gets bought out. Don't be a victim of their denial. Protect yourself. Avoid these engines, and if you own one, get out while you still can. What's your Milwaukee-Eight experience? Are you having problems? Has your dealer denied coverage? Have you paid for repairs out of pocket? Drop your story in the comments. Smash that like button if this video confirmed what you already suspected. Subscribe for more truth about Harley that they don't want you to hear. Share this with every Milwaukee-Eight owner you know. They deserve to know what they're dealing with. Thanks for watching. Stay informed. Don't accept gaslighting. And remember, a company that won't fix its mistakes doesn't deserve your money.